Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 92 of How Do You Write? I'm your host, Rachael Herron. Super glad that you're here today. Today we have an awesome show with Brenda Wilhelmson, and you're going to love listening to her. Let me say that again. You're going to love listening to her. However, I had serious technical difficulties. Skype just took a crap and I couldn't keep connected. It would it would actually freeze every 4 minutes and 15 seconds. And what I didn't realize at the time is it was butchering my voice. It was taking it apart and making it double. That would normally be enough for me to scrap an episode and to beg Brenda to re-record this. But what she says is so great and meaningful and awesome that I didn't even want to try to recapture the interview, which I've never had to do and I don't want to do, because I just wanted you to be able to listen to her. Her audio is clear. It's great. And luckily, I don't talk very much, and you will not believe how much of myself I took out when you hear this. So when you listen to my voice, just be patient about the skipping. I tried to fix it as much as I could. Believe it or not, it was 10 times worse before I did a little bit of editing. So do bear with that. Brenda is clear as a bell and completely delightful and very inspiring about a book that means a lot to me. It's Diary of an Alcoholic Housewife, which was already on my Kindle before I even met her, almost by happenstance. So we talk not only about writing and memoir writing, but we also talk about alcoholism and addiction, and more importantly, the power of saying yes and the way yes can open doors. I think that if you stick with the poor quality of my voice, you'll really get a lot out of the episode. So I hope that you do. In business matters, I would like to say a real quick thank you to new patrons. I don't think I've thanked them yet, but if I have, then they get thanked twice. Helen Redfern, thank you so much. I think you have a beautiful name and you should write young adult. I think that's fantastic. And Crystal Bryant, thank you. And Doug Schneider, thank you everyone who supports on Patreon. Just that little $1 a month makes a huge difference. It's really nice because people are always falling away from Patreon as their cards change or as their lives change and they need to change financially. I want to say that is something that is always completely 100% okay to do. If you want to pledge $5 this month and next month you need to change it to $0, there are never any hard feelings. Never, ever, ever. Because people are always coming in and out. And that's a beautiful thing, and it helps me with my life so much. So thank you to all new, past, and present patrons. And you can find me over at patreon.com/Rachel. A little update over here. I'm not feeling that great today. I'm struggling with a migraine, so this is going to be very short since the migraine does not quite have its claws in me, and I want to go lie down so it doesn't get its claws in me. But I will say that things are progressing apace with the thriller. There's some good interest, and that's all I could say about it. I will tell you guys first whatever I know. But it's exciting times. So I'm just got everything crossed. That's all I can say. And otherwise, writing and prepping is going great. If you're not listening to The Pedal to the Metal, there are 2 episodes recently, and there's going to be a third where Jay Thorne is helping me plot my next romance. He is an accredited story grid editor, and people, I'm a pro. I know this stuff. I think I might have said this last week, and if so, I apologize. Migraine brain. But you can always learn. That's my point. Jay has been teaching me so much. I actually went and read the damn book, which I had been avoiding reading for a long time. I don't know why. I just had a knee-jerk, I don't need another story plan. But the story grid is pretty freaking awesome. And having a friend who knows it like the back of his hand guide me through it is really great. So the last 2 episodes where we really started plotting the book, and the next one, which we're recording next week, about fully expanding it have been fabulous, and they've gotten a really good response. So if you're interested in actually watching plotting in action or listening to plotting in action, go check those out at the petal, like the flower, to the metal.com. It's a weekly podcast, and I really have a good time doing that with my buddy Jay. So let's jump into the terrible interview with Brenda, who is wonderful. Thanks for ignoring the quality. Brenda is an absolute pro. Because every 4 minutes and 50 seconds it would crash, and I'd have to call her back, and she would just smile and take it and keep on talking right where she left off. So thanks, Brenda. Thanks for listening. Please enjoy. Please get some writing done. Push through your own technical difficulties. Push a little bit harder and get your work done, and then tell me about it. I really want to know. So take care, and we'll talk soon. Okay, y'all, I could not be more pleased to welcome my friend Brenda Wilhelmson to the show. Hello.
Hi. Nice to see you again, Rachel.
So excited to talk to you. Let me give you a little introduction, and then we're just going to dive right in together. Journalist turned memoirist Brenda Wilhelmson won an IPPY for her unflinching memoir, Diary of an Alcoholic Housewife. She's working on her second memoir, Thank You, Ashley Madison, which can be previewed at www.thankyouashley.blogspot.com. Brenda has written for CNN, Chicago Tribune, Huffington Post, and Chicago Reader. She lives with her 2 sons in a Chicago suburb. We met at the Chicago Summer Book Show Summit, and it was so funny. You came up to me to ask me a question about something, and
marketing.
It was a complete marketing question. And mentioned the title of your book, which I already had on my Kindle. I bought on my Kindle, and I was so excited to talk to you because I was very, very recently sober. So I wonder if I surprised you with my really? That's you? We talk about that?
No, you know what? I get that a lot. Like, people are like, "Oh, you're the one who wrote that book?" Like, it's out there, and it's surprising how many people are walking in our shoes. But yeah, I wasn't expecting you to be like, "Oh my God." I'm like, what were you, like 3 weeks sober or something like that?
Something awful, so maybe 8 weeks, but I'm still less than 4 months, but I definitely feel more comfortable in my skin.
3 months. Yeah. I knew the 3 was in there. Okay.
And that was my first big working conference, and I just was not prepared for dealing with that many people with my usual crutches. So I really felt like I was kind of willing through that conference. To find a kindred spirit was, and there were more there, of course, they were everywhere. But it was just so nice to have your friendly face. And then I came home and started reading your memoir. It is everything I want in a memoir. And it's funny because it was everything that I was looking for. And I think you have probably found the same thing. But a lot of the recovery memoirs are about, people who were shooting weed and living in the street.
Right.
And while their story resonates with me and I can find the similarities in it to my perspective, I hadn't found the me story. The housewife who really likes drinking every night just because that's what we do in the suburbs, So it was just...
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I wrote the book, because I was a journalist. And... I was newly sober. I went to a meeting, and I came out of this meeting wanting to drink. And I think it was one of the first things in the meeting, and it does happen. Like, you leave and you want to drink, and I'm like, I ran to Barnes and Noble because I had just been sitting in this meeting and hearing all these horror stories, and a lot of them are kind of pounding my, I was worse than you.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm going to top your story with, and I'm sitting there like, do I really need to be here? But what I was doing is I had rules for myself. I didn't drink before 5 o'clock, so I was going to meetings at from 5 o'clock on during my martini, and then to the wine hour, hours, I'll say, hours that segued into the wine, and so that was keeping me sober because I would go to a meeting instead of grabbing my martini shaker. So I didn't know how it was working, but it was working. So I wanted to keep going, but I really wasn't, I'm like, these aren't my people. They are my people. I've since realized that they are, but at that time, like a few days in, I went to Barnes and Noble looking for looking for something that spoke to me. And it wasn't a low bottom story about somebody who'd lost everything and was living in a crack house and, nobody talked to them anymore and they didn't have any friends left. And I still had my life together.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no such book. And so I was laying in bed that night and the thought, write that book, just came from somewhere into my head. And I started keeping a journal, and it turned into a book.
So we're veering from some of the questions I usually ask. So fascinating to me. But I love memoir, and I teach memoir, and I really wanted to ask you what the methodology was of you keeping this, because when I write my journal, from which then I pull memories and then expand on, because when I write my journal, it is just a bunch of crap. Yeah. Did you ever have the crap version, or were you crafting your journal as you went for something to be published later?
Oh, I have like volumes. Like when I wrote Diary of an Alcoholic Housewife, I was handwriting. So I had like probably stacks of like 10 journals, and they're crap.
Oh, that makes me feel so much better.
Oh my God. Like, how, like, and I do enjoy editing. I think we're both kind of the same. Like retooling and and I can mess around with a sentence for a long time, like way long. I feel like I'll never get this book done if I'm, and so I went through 3 edits.
Okay.
By the time, yeah. So the first one was transferring my handwritten journals onto the computer. So as I was moving my handwritten stuff onto the computer, I was finessing things then. And then I went through another read and edited some more. And then before I still wanted, I thought maybe I was done with the second one. And then I was like, you know what, maybe I'll take a look again. And, I'm like, there's still, So there was a third one before I had it in shape and ready to show the editor at Hazelden Betty Ford, which they were the ones to publish my book. So.
Okay, that makes me.
Before they looked at it.
That makes me feel great. Specific question about truth, because you are just naked on the page.
Yeah.
You really seem to have no, and this is that I'm proud of when I pull off, but I also know that I am, lying on the page. I'm also good at myself, and it doesn't, which is how I got to be where I was. But it doesn't seem like you had that. Like when you have resentments about somebody, or, you're just irked, or, you show yourself in all your lights, your good and your bad. And how did you let yourself do that?
I just feel like, I don't know, like it's not me. Like I'm just a channel, and I just kind of count on things coming through me the way they're supposed to come through me. Like I feel like writing the idea for the book wasn't my idea. Like it came into my head, but it didn't feel like I thought it up. Like it just felt like it came. It was put in front of me to do, so I did it. And I never. I was a writer who wasn't really sure I wanted to have my book published. It was like once I got it done. And once I started blogging at first, and I woke up in the middle of the night one time thinking, like, what am I doing? Like, oh my God, like, but then I was like, well, not too many people are seeing it, and it might just be a helpful blog. And if I help 1 or 2 people, yay, I did a good thing, And so I was kind of counting, like telling myself, not too many people are going to see this, and it'll help some people, and it's helping me stay sober, and it'll help other people, and so then when the call came that my book was getting published, I was like, oh, I was yay, and oh shit.
Oh, can I take this back? Maybe can I change my mind? Yeah. because
Yeah.
you really laid your heart bare. And I assume that you're doing this in the fabulously titled Thank You, Madison.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually, it's a very difficult book to put out there too.
And I
That
love
one,
that about you.
pardon?
You seem to be fearless.
You know what? What's interesting is that once I got, and I was kind of in, I kind of was lying to myself and in denial about it ever actually seeing the light of day. And, like I wound up being on the Today Show and
Oh man.
no, so woo, you know. And then when I was doing a book release party, and then I was like, well, because and I wasn't going to do one, and then one of my best friends was just like, no, you have to do a book release party. You really do, and kind of like made me do it. And so I'm writing these emails, letting people know that it's coming out, and I thought I was going to get an ulcer, and then I started getting emails back saying like, I've got this drinking problem,
Oh
and
my gosh.
and like, or my mom has trouble, or my sister, somebody, like it was either themselves or somebody they were close to, and it just like the floodgates opened, and it allowed people to get real and talk about this thing that we need to talk about. And so once I did that, I mean, I did have all this fear, and I had this sick feeling in my stomach when I was letting everybody know, hey, because people didn't know I was an alcoholic either.
Mm-hmm. Nobody knew about me either.
Yeah, yeah. I had this whole, facade. My house looked good. I look good. My kids look good, and so people were kind of like, whoa. But I was getting all this feedback, and people were contacting me because they had similar issues going on in their own lives, and then once that mask was ripped off, it was a relief.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could just be real.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to have any falseness or any pretense or, no, there was no facade. It was like, yeah, I was out there super imperfect, and I didn't have to try to be anything I wasn't anymore.
Yeah.
And so, I thought I was going to write a novel next, and so I started writing a novel, and then I wound up, my marriage exploded and blew up. And I started finding out all these really, really hard things that, I was married to somebody for 21 years. I didn't know who he was, I think he was capable of doing the things that he was doing, being on Ashley Madison for the last 5 years we were married, and rating our 401k, and, like a lot. Yeah, it was an avalanche of, but I saw it as another growth opportunity. I started taking a really good, hard look at myself, having had the tools of getting sober, and by being forced to do that, I had a pretty good toolbox at that point where I was like, well, it takes two, and what's my end of things? And I need to clean up my side of the street and really look at my contribution and look at this thing as a whole thing, and see this, as this challenge, this huge growth opportunity that I had in front of me, that if I could like jump over this, that how much stronger and better I could be. And I got excited for my life, because I was pretty miserable, when things went the way they did. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, I get a do-over,
That's
I
amazing.
get a do-over. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about writing. What's your biggest challenge when it comes to writing, and what's your biggest joy?
My biggest challenge when it comes to writing is, well, the nature of what I do is, I've been writing about some very hard topics about, I'm an alcoholic, and, I was living with somebody I didn't know, and was, leading a double life, and that struck me to the core. And sometimes I don't feel like writing. Like I can go into a hole. Like it's like I can look at, like, right now with Thank You, Ashley Madison. I'm in the process of going through my editing. I'm just about to start my third edit.
Oh, so you're in delicious sweet spot. Like it's not
Yeah,
even the first hard edit. It's now you're just fun.
right. And now it's interesting because I'm at a point where it's almost like I'm talking about somebody else who isn't me.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's very, like I will say too, if you're, regardless if you're looking to publish a book or not, I mean, this is really good therapy. Like I've had to process this multiple times from different places as it's like, so every time I come back to it, I'm coming back to it from a different place. But like the first edit, it was rugged. Like there were times where I just had to put it away for weeks and not look at it because you sit on a therapist's couch for an hour. This is me doing like deep dive therapy for
hours and hours.
Without a break. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just walk away feeling shell shocked and it's like, I can't look at this anymore. I need to make lunches for my kid and have, hold things together. And that was the hard part, of like getting depressed and having to like relive and reprocess a lot of the stuff that I write about.
Mm-hmm.
But, my favorite part though is when I just get into a zone and time just flies because those 6 hours go like that. And it's like all of a sudden I'm like, I haven't gotten out of my chair for a really long time. I should probably walk around and get something to drink.
I love that feeling. That's one of my favorite feelings in the world.
Yeah. And so we know that's what we're supposed to be doing. It's like when you get into a place like that, a creative place where you're just like there and you're in the moment and you're in the process and you're creating and nothing else exists. I mean, what a great feeling. It's like, that's what you're supposed to be doing when things click and feel like that.
Like the runner's high. It's why you do it. Can you share a quick craft tip with us of any sort?
A craft tip. Yeah. Because of, again, like the nature of what I do, I look at my life as art. That's the piece that I feel is the artiest piece, is living and experiencing and saying yes to things when there's no good reason to say no. Like the more you say yes and walk through that door, the more opportunities you have to say yes. But the more we say no and don't open doors and close them, they dry up. So I just kind of feel like I want to share that. It's like, just, yes. If you've got an opportunity, something gets put in front of you to do, say yes and do it. And just kind of like watch life roll. And then I'm kind of like a scribe and I write down what I'm doing.
Did you read Shonda Rhimes' book, The Year of Yes? I think you should. Oh, I think you would. And it's her challenge to say yes for a year because she was really saying no to everything and closing in. And particularly, I felt right before I quit drinking, I had just started saying no to everything, including family and my friends. And stopping drinking has brought yes into my life. And so I just love that you say that. And I love that you look at your life as art. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And we all should, right?
We all should, yes.
Yeah. And I just feel like, the universe is abundant. There's so much juicy goodness out there, and it's like, just eat it up and gobble it up and experience what we can while we're here, because there's a lot of good. That said, there's a lot of hard too. I mean, life is beautiful and it's hard.
Rolling into my next question, and then when you have those dark days or self-doubt about your writing, how do you deal with those days?
I give myself a break. I didn't used to feel like I deserved a break, but if there's a day where I feel like I need to just take off and I need to just isolate, I do. So when I was going through my divorce, there were days I would lay on the couch and just stare at the ceiling, and I learned to be okay with that, allow myself to feel, because us as drinkers, didn't feel anything for a really long time.
I thought numb was a feeling. I kid you not.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it was crazy because not only did I numb out the bad feelings, but I also numbed out the good feelings too.
Yeah,
You know, it's like, oh, I've got something to celebrate. Drink. You know, oh, I'm sad. Drink. You know,
One size fits all.
for everything. But so now I've learned too, just for my own mental health, that unless I allow myself to feel my feelings and to get in touch with what's really going on with me, if I'm constantly getting busy and, oh, I can't deal with that, I got to do this, because that's one of my go-tos too, is to get real busy and just do and not deal with anything. But I have learned that, you know, there are times where I just kind of like need to lay on my couch and stare at my ceiling and feel things. And then it passes pretty well. And one of my tricks for that too is to not let my mind go, where I can get real maudlin. If I keep thinking, you know, like I detach from my thoughts, like the feelings and the thoughts are separate. Like I'll just kind of like purely like kind of like dive in and just feel physically what it's doing to my body. Like kick my thoughts out and just kind of like sit with the actual physical feeling. And it's surprising how quickly that goes. And then I can get back on my A game sooner.
I think you just gave me a light moment too, because I'm always talking to my students and self in my writing about, you know, visceral, and putting the visceral on the page, because that's what we cannot help identifying with. You can tell me you're sad and I not care, but if you show me where's in your body, so I understand as a human what you're going through. And to do that to ourselves, actual human beings, and not just on the page, is kind of really profound.
Yeah.
What is the best book you've read recently, and why did you love it?
The best book that I've read recently, and I'm reading it now, and I'm going to hold it up here, is Sapiens.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's by, and I'm gonna totally massacre his name, Yuval Noah Harari. I think that's how it's pronounced. And it's basically, it's called Sapiens: A Brief History of Humankind. And Homo sapiens means wise human, and we're far from the wisest humans on the face of the earth. Like it's just a riveting history of humankind, and how for millions of years other forms of, you know, before we became Homo sapiens lived on this planet just great. But now when we had this like cognitive revolution, wherever we show up, wherever we decide we can like build a boat and go to, animals and plants die and go extinct. You know? And we've been doing this for about like 300,000 years, and look at where we're at right now, you know? So it's kind of like, you know, wise human, not so much. So super interesting. Yeah.
It sounds right up alley. After I'm done with your book, it's going to be like tonight, because I'm this close to ending. And where do you find you?
You can find me online at BrendaWilhelmson.com.
Okay, easy.
Or you can look at, and I'm actually blogging, Thank You, Ashley Madison. So you can take a sneak peek at that, and it's thankyouashley.blogspot.com. And you can also just Google Diary of an Alcoholic Housewife, and I'll pop up there too. But yeah, so. And
I can't recommend your book more highly. I'm your biggest fan. Thank you for writing the book that I was looking for.
Thank you.
So much. And thanks for being on the show. Thanks for being here and talking.
Thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Take care and talk soon.